Welcome back everyone, I really hope you're all doing well. It is a beautiful day here in the UK today. It's the last day of our heat wave, which is quite sad, but it has been very, very hot. All the plants have been absolutely loving it. The garden's looking really nice. But today I wanted to talk to you about rare houseplants that are easy to care for. So kind of my top 10 low maintenance rare houseplants. And when I say rare, I mean uncommon plants. Some of them are rarer than others, but it's not plants that you'll find in like the garden centres or easily online. It's a few more of the rarer varieties. And the reason I wanted to film this video is because I do get quite a lot of questions on what are the best rare houseplants to start with if you haven't got that much experience in them. Because obviously you don't want to be adding all these rare, expensive houseplants to your collection if you don't know how to care for them, and some of them are trickier than others and do require higher needs than others. So I thought I'd share my own personal experience on which of the rare houseplants I find easier to care for. So in no particular order, the first plant I wanted to start with is the beautiful Philodendron gloriosum with its beautiful large velvety heart-shaped leaves. I just love the pale green veining. Sometimes it also has a pink hue to it, which is really, really pretty. So this is its brand new leaf here. When I first got the plant, it only had the one leaf, but it quickly grew this one, which I was super happy about. I did have a gloriosum before this, but it was slightly smaller, so I ended up selling the smaller one and then getting myself a larger one. I find them to be really easy growing, pretty low maintenance. They're not too fussy in regards to humidity. They do thrive best in bright indirect light and warm temperatures. And I have mine potted up in a nice chunky airy aroid mix. I will link my soil video for you below in the description box. And when it comes to planting up these particular philodendrons, you're going to have to make sure you're not planting it too deep in the soil. So this plant is actually a crawling or creeping plant native to Colombia. So bear in mind when you're potting it up, it's going to have to be planted very shallow in the soil. The runner or the stolon has to be very close to the surface or actually sitting on the surface of the soil. It's a bit hard to show you with mine because usually the runner is kind of sideways on the soil, whereas mine is kind of coming up directly out of the soil, although it is planted very shallow. I will attach a picture on the screen of what it's meant to look like when it's planted up, and I am planning on making a video on how to pot up this particular plant. These are prone to root rot, so go easy on the watering. Again, how much and how often you water will depend on your home environment and how big the root system of the plant is. I generally water my plants once a week with room temperature filtered water, but again it will depend on your home environment as to how often you water. I have been watering a little bit more over the last week or so because we have been having a heat wave. Next up we have the Philodendron MELANOCHRYSUM, also known as black gold philodendron, and this is due to the leaves. When they unfurl, they're kind of like a bronzy gold colour, and then as they mature, they become a dark green. The leaves have got a lovely velvety sheen to them, and in the wild, they can actually reach up to about 5 foot in length, which is extremely impressive, but this is very unlikely to happen in a home environment unless your house is literally like a rainforest. So these philodendrons are climbing and they're also native to Colombia. Ideally, you need to give them a moss pole to climb, as this will promote larger leaf growth. I actually need to add a pole to mine, but so far it's doing quite well. This is its newest leaf here, and then the one behind is also a new leaf. So when I originally got it, it just had this one leaf here, and as you can see, there's no crispy bits, although it does have a slight ruffled appearance, which I'm not sure if that's normal or not. Again, with this particular plant, you need to make sure that you're not giving it too much water, as it is prone to root rot. So I would recommend perhaps getting a clear nursery pot so you can keep an eye on the roots. Again, the amount you water it and how often will depend on the root system and your home environment. I also have this philodendron potted up in a nice chunky aroid mix. But again, I haven't found it too fussy in regards to humidity. It doesn't need like super high humidity compared to some other plants like this beast here, this regale. As you can see, there's some crispy bits which the plant did have when I first got it, but these do require much higher humidity. I tend to fertilise my plants every 2 to 3 weeks with my Baby Bio houseplant fertiliser. I'll attach it on the screen for you and also below in the description box. I have used this fertiliser for probably about 10 years. So ideally, bright indirect light, high humidity, good airflow and a chunky aroid mix. But as I said, I haven't found my melanochrysums fussy in the slightest. I haven't had any yellowing of leaves or any crispy bits, anything like that. So I would say it would be quite a good rare plant for a beginner. Don't quote me on that though, this is just from my own experience. Next up we have this beast, and I've heard the name pronounced in about 3 or 4 different ways, so I'm actually just going to put it on the screen and not pronounce it because I don't want to get it wrong. This is another climbing philodendron with huge leaves and striking orange petioles. It's really beautiful, really low maintenance in my opinion. I wouldn't say it's super fast growing. I think this is the only new leaf I've had from it so far, although it does look like there's another one on the way, which is quite exciting. Again, this plant ideally needs a moss pole for it to kind of grab onto, and this will promote larger leaf growth. Again, it doesn't seem too fussy with humidity. I do have it in bright indirect light and a chunky aroid mix. And as I mentioned, it is a bit slower growing than some of my other philodendrons, but that's just my own personal experience. Also, these plants tend to ship really well, which is another indication that it's pretty hardy. I would certainly recommend this plant if you are looking to add some of the more uncommon plants to your collection. One more thing to note is make sure you dust the leaves now and again. I just use filtered water on some kitchen roll and just give them a wipe down every now and again. I actually need to do this one. I can see it's a little bit dusty. But out of all the plants I've shown you so far, this I would say is the hardiest and easiest to care for. The next plant I wanted to show you, and the last plant in this room, is this beautiful ANTHURIUM hybrid called Queen of Hearts. The leaves actually emerge like a deep, beautiful red colour, and then they transition to green as they mature. So as you can see here, these are the 2 old leaves, and then this is the newest leaf, which it has grown since I have put it in this room. So that tells me it's not super fussy with humidity, and as you can see, there's no crispy bits on there at all. And a brilliant sign is that this new leaf is actually larger than the existing leaves, so it must be quite happy where it is here. So I would say it's getting kind of medium to bright indirect light here. As with most anthuriums, they don't require quite as much light as philodendrons, and I would say out of all the anthuriums that I own, this is definitely one of the most low maintenance varieties in my experience. Again, this plant is potted up in a nice chunky aroid mix. I don't make the mix quite as chunky for my anthuriums, as they prefer slightly more moist soil than philodendrons, but you can tailor the mix to any plant. Next up we have Syngonium Pink Splash. Super easy to care for, really low maintenance, really beautiful, very striking with its beautiful pink variegation. Syngoniums can thrive in medium to bright indirect light, but I would recommend keeping them in bright indirect light if they are variegated. There's a new leaf about to unfurl there. I've never had any problems with this plant. I've had it for over a year. I did notice that when I was keeping it under the grow light, it was producing much more variegated leaves. I've since moved it, and as you can see on the new leaf it does have a bit more green, although I can't really tell. That other side might be quite pink, I'm not sure yet until it unfurls, but some of these leaves were from when it was under the grow light. These are slightly more thirsty, so you might have to water them twice a week during the summer months. Generally I only water mine once a week, but occasionally when it's been very hot like it has been the last week, I have given it a little bit of extra water. Next up we have the gorgeous Philodendron Florida Beauty. So when I first got this plant, it had 3 leaves that barely had any variegation on them at all. Here's one of them. I'll spin it round in a minute so you can see the other leaves. But yeah, barely any variegation. But since keeping it under a grow light for a couple of weeks, it produced the most beautiful variegated leaf, as you can see. I was quite shocked when this unfurled, and then as you can see behind there's another one there, and that also looks to have really good variegation. So this is a relatively fast growing climbing philodendron. They do like a nice warm environment with relatively high humidity and bright indirect light. And I would say for best results regarding the variegation, keep under a grow light or very, very bright indirect light. I'm actually running a giveaway at the moment over on my Instagram page. I'm giving away one of my Spider Farmer grow lights. I've got 3 of these now, so I'm going to be giving away this exact light here. I have turned them off at the moment because I didn't want to blind anyone. It's only 5 months old, so if you're interested in winning this grow light, I'll attach a link to my Instagram post below for you in the description box. So I've just turned the plant around so you can see what the original leaves looked like when I first got it, and as you can see this one literally has no variegation whatsoever. This one has a tiny bit on the corner, and a little bit there, and then there's a smaller leaf at the back there with a bit of variegation on. So I was quite shocked when this popped out, and then I'm quite excited to see what that's going to look like. And then also there's another new growth point there, so it's been growing really, really fast. So in my opinion it has been very low maintenance, fast growing, no crispy tips, and I feel like it's one of the most beautiful plants in my collection. And look at the red petioles as well, so stunning. Next up we have the Philodendron Burle MARXII Variegata, and on these you can find beautiful variegation that can be yellow, cream or white. As you can see on that leaf it looks a bit more cream, and then it's more of a yellow variegation on this leaf, and you can actually get white variegation as well. I find this to be very fast growing. Usually they'll have multiple growth points, so they're quite easy to propagate and chop up, and you can create multiple plants. Again, this is in a chunky aroid mix. This is the newest leaf here. Again, not too fussy in regards to humidity, and I water this plant around once a week. Generally the temperature in this room ranges from around 24 to 28 degrees Celsius. This is during the summer months. It will be a bit lower in the winter, and the humidity is usually between 50 and 70%. I do have a humidifier. I have just switched it off for the video. For best variegation I recommend keeping it in bright indirect light. Definitely avoid direct sun with this one, as it can cause bleaching and burning on the leaves. The next plant I wanted to show you is the EPIPREMNUM PINNATUM Variegata. So I had quite a few of these arrive recently and they didn't have much variegation, but again after a couple of weeks under the grow light they produced some really, really beautiful variegation. I decided to keep this cutting for myself. I am growing a few under the grow light at the moment. These plants can climb or trail. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with this one. I think I'm going to let it trail. I might end up hanging it. Again, it's potted up in a chunky aroid mix. So you can actually keep these in slightly lower light conditions, although I feel like the variegation won't be as good. So I definitely recommend keeping it in a bright indirect light. Under a grow light is ideal, especially during the winter months when the light's not as good. Not quite as rare as some of the other plants I've shown you, but super beautiful and easy to care for. This is the ALOCASIA CUPREA. I've had this plant about a year and a half, and as you can see, it's quite a big plant now. When I first got it, I think it only had about 3 or 4 leaves and it was quite compact looking, and now it's gone a bit wild and I decided to hang it. I think it looks really cool in a hanging basket. So it has the most striking, unusual metallic purple leaves that actually unfurl more of a red colour. This plant is also known as Red Secret. I just love the metallic sheen on them. It's just so different and unusual. Really, really beautiful. Definitely stands out. Alocasia do tend to go dormant in the winter, although this plant has actually stuck around for a year and a half now. It hasn't gone dormant, so it must be quite happy with the temperature in the house. I would say it's getting medium to bright light here, although more on the medium side, and it's been in this hanging pot for around 7 months. In my opinion, very low maintenance, very beautiful and very unusual looking. This plant is actually native to Borneo, so it does appreciate a warm and humid environment. Although in regards to humidity, I don't think it's too fussy because I have had it in various places around the house, including the kitchen where the humidity is probably quite low, and it was pretty happy there, to be honest. So apparently this plant was first commercially grown in Hawaii, which is quite interesting. I would absolutely love to visit Hawaii. Definitely on my list of places to visit. Last but not least, we have the stunning Anthurium FORGETII with its beautiful round profile and lack of sinus. It makes it really unique and stands out from all my other plants. It has recently got a new leaf, which is super cute. I love the veining on them, so striking. I believe this to be a dark form FORGETII, and the leaves have a velvet feel to them, so if you love velvety leaves, you'll love this one. Again, this Anthurium doesn't require super bright light to thrive. I do tend to keep all my Anthuriums in slightly lower light conditions than my philodendrons, and they all seem to be very happy. But again, this is one of the lower maintenance Anthuriums, as some of them can be a little bit more fussy. I keep all my Anthuriums in a nice chunky aroid mix, and I dress the soil with some sphagnum moss, and if you give this an occasional misting, this will help increase the humidity and it will keep your Anthuriums very happy. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you found the video useful. If you have any suggestions of easy to care for rare plants, please leave them in the comments below. I'd be really interested to see what everyone else thinks. Again, it's all based on personal preference and experiences, so I just wanted to share with you what my kind of top 10 were. Take care everyone, and I'll see you all soon. Bye!